so excited to see if Elmer finds that dragon. We have 2 chapters to go, but before we move on to chapter 9, we're going to do a little detective work in our book. We are going to go back and think about all of the things Elmer had in his knapsack. And then we're going to think about if he has used them and when. And then I'd like to look at what he has left in his knapsack and make some predictions about what he's going to use to solve his problems in chapters 9 and 10, and what we think he might use to rescue that dragon. We talked about it a little bit in Tuesday's Zoom, but we're gonna investigate that. So I want you to get your journals out and get ready and make sure you have your book today, because you're going to be going back through all of the chapters to remember what Elmer has used from his knapsack. So the first thing we want to do, of course, is get our journal set up just like we do every day. So it is ELA, and it is 11, 12, 20. And what we're going to call this activity is we're just going to call it Elmer's knapsack. That's what we're going to be talking about before we read chapter 9. So go ahead and get your journal set up. The next thing we want to do is be sure we have a target for today. And today's target is I can, or of course I will be able to, I can make predictions about how the story will end by using clues from the text. I can make predictions about how the story will end. Remember, predictions are like guesses, but it's not just a guess out of the blue. It's a guess that you make by using your text. So I can make predictions about how the story will end by using clues. And the clues that we're going to use today are all about the knapsack. So I can make predictions about how the story will end by using clues from the text. Make sure you can see all that. There we go. Now we're going to set up our page, and we're going to have 2 columns on this page. On one side, we're going to write the name of the item from the knapsack. And on the other side, we're going to write about how it was used and in which chapter. So I want you to watch very closely as I set up my journal. So you're going to put on the left side, you're going to say knapsack item. Knapsack item. And then on the other side, you're going to put the abbreviation for chapter and say how it was used. Okay? And we're not going to need as much space over here on this side. So if you can see, I'm going to take my ruler here. You don't have to have a ruler, but I'm going to make my column a little smaller on this side. So let me show you. So see? So on one side, we're going to list the item, what it was in his knapsack, and then on the other side, we're going to talk about how he used it, okay? See how I have a little bit less space on this side than this side? So go ahead and set up, it's kind of like a T-chart, but the T's scooted way over, okay? So, and I'll put it all the way down to the bottom. So go ahead and set yours up. Now I want you to turn to page 18 in your book. Page 18 is when Elmer is planning to run away, and the cat is telling Elmer what to pack in his knapsack. So let's go back and read the items just to remember what he packed in his knapsack. Chewing gum, 2 dozen pink lollipops, a package of rubber bands, black rubber boots, a compass, a toothbrush and a tube of toothpaste, 6 magnifying glasses, a very sharp jackknife, a comb and a hairbrush, 7 hair ribbons of different colors, an empty grain bag which had a label saying cranberry, some clean clothes, enough food to last my father while on the ship. And so that was it. Oh, and remember, he said the food was 25 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and 6 apples. Okay, so I remember thinking about this and how interesting that list was and what unique ways Elmer has used the items in his knapsack. So now let's take a close look back at those items. What we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to list the items on this side, and then you're going to be a detective and remember back to how it was used. So we're just going to write them in order. So right here, I'm going to number them just so that you can keep track a little bit better. The first item that was listed was chewing gum. Okay, then I want you to skip 2 spaces and put the second item that was listed, and that was 2 dozen pink lollipops. And then same thing, skip 2 spaces, and let's write the next item, rubber bands. And the next item, skip 2 spaces, and let's write rubber boots. He's used those a lot, hasn't he? Okay, the next item that was listed was his compass. We know that he's used that. The next item was toothbrush, and it listed them together, so we're going to list them together. Toothbrush, toothpaste. Toothbrush and toothpaste. Now I'm going to go straight onto my next page, right up at the top, and I'm at item number 7. Ooh, this was a fun one. 6 magnifying glasses. Oops. We just learned about that one. That was a fun chapter. A jackknife. Comb and a brush. Seven hair ribbons. That was a fun one too. 7 hair ribbons. Grain bag. And then, of course, clean clothes. We haven't heard of him changing clothes yet. Clean clothes. And then after you do that, just draw your line so that you have 2 columns again. And now you're all set up to do your detective work. So if you'll look, we've got the item, and it's your turn to go back in the text and remember how it was used. I'm going to give you an example of how to search for the items from the book. The first item was chewing gum. Now, how am I going to find the place in the text where Elmer used the chewing gum? Well, of course, I remember that he tricked the tigers with the chewing gum. So let's open to our table of contents, just like we do every day. And let's remember what chapter that was. Chapter 5. My father meets some tigers. So I'm going to turn there. And then what I'm going to do is right here, what's the first thing that I ask you to do? I ask you to put the chapter. So I'm going to say chapter 5. Chapter 5. That's where the chewing gum was used. And do you guys remember how he used the chewing gum? We run into some tigers. And if you'll remember, he was afraid. The tigers are angry because he's trespassing. And what does he do for the very first time? Because it says they want to eat him. He said he's a hungry tiger and he thinks he's going to be a very tender snack. Okay, so what does Father do? He looks at the hungry tigers and he had an idea. And so what did he do with that chewing gum? He tricked the tigers into chewing the gum rather than eating Elmer, right? He told them to chew that gum and then chew it for a really long time. And then do you remember what he said to do with it? He said to plant it. Let's see. And then he said if you keep on chewing it long enough, it will turn green. And then you plant it and you'll grow more chewing gum. So let's look back. Okay, so what did he do or how was he used? Elmer tricked the tigers. That's important because who did he trick? He tricked the tigers into chewing gum rather than doing what? Rather than eating him. And that's it. And if you need to draw a line underneath that to kind of keep your spot, you can. So in chapter 5, Elmer tricked the tigers into chewing gum rather than eating him. You're going to do the same thing with every item that has been used. Now, the second item says 2 dozen pink lollipops. Have we used that item yet? We haven't. So you can just put a question mark. It hasn't been used yet. Or you can write those words, not used yet, and move right along. Has he used the rubber bands? Absolutely. You're going to have to go back way to the beginning of the book when he was on the boat. So hopefully that makes sense, and I look forward to seeing all of the ways that you remember how he used the items. I know that this activity might be a bit of a challenge for you because I'm asking you to look back through the entire book, but I really want you to remember what I've been telling you. If you don't try things that are difficult, then you're not going to grow. So please remember to continue to push yourself so that even if things are difficult, you're working hard, you're digging into the text, and you are pushing yourself to do things that are more difficult and more challenging than you thought. I want you to do your best, your neatest handwriting, and I look forward to seeing you at 10:30.